yield that you can get. It's not as great when you have rates towards record lows, and we just had the Fed cut rates again this week. So it's hard to get that yield. So a lot of different portfolio managers I've spoken with like to look at high dividend-paying stocks that could still provide you that safety net and security, but still get yield that you might get more than, say, in the bond market. So some of those stocks are like, say, AT&T and Verizon. Those tend to have favorable dividends for investors and could still provide you certain protections and still give you those dividend payouts that are more favorable than, say, in the bond market.
Okay. So one of the ways to protect your 401k, say, for example, on your list is review your investments. What does that mean?
So you need to look and see what you are exposed to and where. So one of those things would say if you have investments that are exposed to Asia, when we're looking at what's been happening, say, with tourism stocks and retail stocks, because a lot of them have gotten hammered, say, looking at the cruise liners or those different brick-and-mortar stocks in companies that are within Asia, people are at home and they're not going out and spending money. Obviously, those companies are suffering right now. So if those are investments you have more towards the near term, those are things that you could consider scaling back on.
We're speaking with Jess Menton, personal finance and markets reporter at USA Today. She's written a piece about kind of how to keep your cool with your 401k in the midst of the stock market volatility, in the midst of coronavirus. You said, too, evaluate multinational companies. How come?
If you look at the S&P 500, there's a large portion that have exposure to China, and a lot of them have warned that they could face supply chain issues because of what's happened. So you've had Apple come out and say that. A lot of large chip makers have also said that they could face certain delays.
Thanks, Jess. Jessica Menton, personal finance and markets reporter at USA Today. 30 minutes after the hour, on This Morning, America's First News. Hiring used to be hard. Multiple job sites, right? Stacks of resumes, a confusing review process. But today, hiring can be easy, and you only need to go to one place to get it done, a place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/Gordon. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job sites, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right skills and experience for your job and actively invites them to apply. You can even add screening questions to your job listing so you can filter candidates and focus on the best ones. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, to try ZipRecruiter for free, our listeners can go to ZipRecruiter.com/Gordon. That's ZipRecruiter.com/GORDON. ZipRecruiter.com/Gordon. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Catch America's First News online anytime at thismorningwithgordondeal.com.
Thanks for being with us. Welcome into Friday, March 6. Gordon Deal, Jennifer Kashenka, some of our top stories and headlines. 4 new states report coronavirus infections. Stocks fall hard again on disease uncertainty. Elizabeth Warren out of the presidential race. Facebook has removed Trump ads said to be violating company policy. J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon recovering from emergency heart surgery. Trump visits Tennessee today to assess tornado damage. The Los Angeles Angels fire their longtime visiting clubhouse manager for giving ball doctoring substances to opposing pitchers. And indecent exposure accusations against a 100-year-old woman. That story in about 20 minutes. The Labor Department today releases the February jobs report. One of the big questions, will the coronavirus have an impact on the employment numbers? For analysis, we're joined by Mark Hamrick, senior economic analyst at Bankrate.com. Mark, your expectations?
Well, of course, we think that to some degree this is old news, but we want to know where the economy was before we think the full brunt of the coronavirus outbreak is hitting the United States economy. So as the survey was taken for the U.S. Labor Department, the job market was seen quite stable with about 170,000 jobs added, the unemployment rate seen going down to 3.5%. That's very consistent with what we've seen over the past year.
All right, so how will coronavirus ultimately be factored into these reports? I presume at this point it's a little too early to see anything from February?
I think it's too early to see any evidence of the outbreak in the February jobs report, but we're seeing, for example, the Beige Book Survey from the Federal Reserve, which is a regional economic roundup, had all kinds of examples of how it's affecting essentially the business outlook and business itself. One more dramatic example was a Chinese restaurant in Philadelphia was being hurt because people wrongfully thought that there was a risk of going there to eat. So business uncertainty is probably the major thing right now, but in some cases it is certainty, meaning the airlines are already seeing a dramatic pullback in demand. United Airlines has already announced a cut to its flight schedule. I think we'll see more of that. An airline went under in the UK overnight, of one that's been in business for 4 decades. So the other part is the oil patch. Crude oil prices are down sharply, and that's because of slumping global demand.
We're speaking with Mark Hamrick, Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate.com. We're talking about the February jobs report. How about some of the positives? Anybody of note doing some quality hiring?
Well, as we looked at the job market in February, it remained quite robust. And so, for example, employers in some cases were shifting from temporary to permanent workers as they were hiring, just because they thought that that would be more attractive to those workers. And in some cases, they were retaining workers that otherwise would have been seasonal more full-time. Employment was seen growing across sectors like manufacturing, transportation, and retailing, and wages were growing at a decent clip as well. But again, I think it's important to emphasize that I think the financial markets are largely going to look past. We basically talk about these reports every month, as we have been for years, and this is going to be a remarkable case of where it's going to be seen as not very predictive about what happens in the near term because of the outbreak.
All right, so some of the worries for investors here are, I guess, in some ways psychological, right? They worry that people will be too afraid to go out and eat at a restaurant, for example, something basic like that.
Well, I mean, for example, in Seattle this week, officials have urged people 60 and older to avoid crowds. So that's real, and obviously the heart of the fatalities in the U.S. have been in that area, so that's why they have that more aggressive response. And so I think it's beyond fear at this point. I mean, in other words, fear is part of it, but I think that there are real economic impacts, and people are trying to anticipate what the next shoes are to drop, which is very difficult because, in many ways, we're in uncharted territory. The earlier outbreaks of Ebola, MERS, and SARS, bird flu, didn't seem to be quite as severe as this, and we didn't have people making runs to grocery stores for all kinds of supplies and essentially outfitting their pantries. So I do think this is different. I do think there is a risk to the U.S. economy. I will say this, and I think this might be among the most important things that we can talk about right now, and that is for investors who are seeing these crazy swings in the market on a daily basis. I think a lot of it is, frankly, not fully understood why, because a lot of it is algorithmic or machines moving the market around. But I think for the long term, as we saw after 9/11, as we saw after the financial crisis and Great Recession, after we saw in the 87 crash for those that were around then, life does move on, and the market will eventually see its upward advance restored. But it's just hard to see through that right now because it feels like so much is up in the air for the intermediate term.
Nice, Mark. Mark Hamrick, Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate.com. 20 minutes now in front of the hour on This Morning, America's First News. Thanks for spending part of your Friday with us. It's time now for the Mic Drop with this morning's Mike Gavin.
Good morning. Well, we've all heard the warnings by now. Wash your hands frequently, cough and sneeze into your elbow, and definitely don't touch your face. Those precautions are more easily said than done, however, even for those who make their living giving them. Take Dr. Sarah Cody, director of the Santa Clara, California County Health Department. Dr. Cody has been going viral, no pun intended, this week after a press conference last Friday at which she warned people not to touch their nose, mouth, or face in order to protect from the coronavirus. Then Seconds later, licked her finger in order to turn the page on her notes. The clip highlights just how hard it is not to touch your face, especially after someone tells you not to. According to a 2015 study, researchers found that people touch their faces an average of 23 times an hour. Most of that, according to the study, included direct contact with eyes, mouth, and nose, direct pathways for a virus to enter the body. Yeah.
In the past, 5 or 6 minutes when I first looked at your story, I think I've wiped my eyes twice. So I tried to do so with my forearm, like my wrist, not my fingers.
Yes.
I had an itch on the bridge of my nose, an itch on my chin.
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird.
We're all be getting little scratchers at our desk, like personal scratchers that we can use to scratch whatever's going on. Yeah, I've been definitely more cognizant of the fact that I touch my face a lot, and just touching my whole body in general. It's just not a good thing right now.
Plus, you got a sick one at home.
Right.
So
yes.
you're on high alert.
Yeah. Got a kid with the flu at home.
Hazmat suits in your house.
Yeah. Trying to get the sanitizer and stuff, and it's not even in the stores right now.
Right.
I'm not even talking about for coronavirus, just for the flu, which is in high season right now.
Yep.
So, yes. Yeah, we all have to be out and be a little more careful now. And here's something many of us would welcome after a long week. Residents of a small village in Italy had the taps in their houses dispensing red wine instead of water due to a fault at a nearby winery. Locals in the village of Sedicani said the taps in their kitchens and bathrooms were dispensing red liquid instead of water on Wednesday, and many quickly identify it from smell as Lambrusco Grasparosa, a locally produced wine. Officials at the winery said technicians investigated and discovered a technical fault had caused wine to leak from a silo into the water pipes with pressure high enough to displace most of the water and replace it with the wine. The technicians were dispatched and able to fix the problem, but not before some residents broke out some bottles to try to catch as much of the wine as possible before the flow returned to normal.
Honey, get me a bucket!
Can you see that? Yeah, that scene, people gathering around the faucet.
Right. That is bizarre, though. Only in Italy
right.
could somehow a silo be dispatching red wine into the public water supply,
this could
which then goes to homes?
Yeah, this could be the most Italian story we've done in a very, very long time.
That is weird. I wonder how it tastes coming through water pipes, though, and not straight from a barrel or a bottle.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter to these folks.
Yeah.
They're just going to bottle it right up.
On a Friday? Definitely not.
Yeah, it's free.
Definitely not. Right.
We'll take what we can get.
Thanks, Mike. 13 minutes now in front of the hour. On This Morning, America's First News.
Do business more powerfully during Dell's semi-annual sale. Save up to 45% on Dell computers and servers with Intel Core processors. It's time for you to upgrade to new modern devices with Windows 10. Also, save on electronics and accessories plus free shipping on everything and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call 877-BUY-DELL to talk to a Dell Technologies advisor who can help you find just the right tech. That's 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/business deals.
I'm not a big talker. I am a big doer. But sometimes the only way to solve the problem is to get on the horn and figure it out. So the only people I like talking to? Grainger. With knowledgeable product experts, ready with the answers to my toughest questions, calling Grainger is the one conversation I don't mind having. From machining and motor parts to valves and vacuum pumps. When it comes to solving my problems, Grainger's got my back. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by to see for yourself. Grainger. For the ones who get it done.
Thanks for spending time with us. Don't forget, we can connect on social media. You can friend us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at This Morning Show. And you can follow me directly on Twitter as well, at Gordon Deal. If you are not prepared to fork over big bucks for a small bottle of hand sanitizer, there's another option for fighting coronavirus beyond hand washing with soap and water. Homemade hand sanitizer. USA Today says one recipe posted on thoughtco.com by chemistry expert Anne-Marie Helmenstein, requires 2 ingredients. 2/3 of a cup of isopropyl alcohol, which is 99% rubbing alcohol, and 1/3 a cup of aloe vera gel. There are also widely circulated recipes using vodka as the main ingredient, including one on the website of Good Housekeeping magazine. 2 biology professors from Benedictine University in Illinois say consumers should pay attention to the percentage of alcohol present when using vodka. The professors say the concentration of ethanol in 80-proof vodka is only 40% and is not concentrated enough to kill viruses. They suggest 180-proof spirits, which have 90% ethanol. Hand washing for 20 seconds with warm soapy water, by the way, still the best option. 8 minutes now in front of the hour. On This Morning, America's First News, here's Jennifer Kashenka.
And now, the 3 big things you need to know. Number 1.
The White House acknowledges the nation does not have enough coronavirus test kits as cases of the disease tick upward across the country. Vice President Mike Pence says the administration will not be able to meet its objective of delivering 1 million kits this week.
We don't have enough tests today to meet what we anticipate will be the demand.
Congress, meanwhile, moved with unusual speed to approve an emergency aid package to combat the outbreak.
Number 2.